He was born a slave, and he became freer than the people who owned him. Epictetus, a man who had nothing, no rights, no freedom, no control over his own body. His master even broke his leg just to prove a point. And yet, he found something that his master could never take away. Something that made him more powerful than emperors. Something that most people with total freedom never figure out. He discovered that no one can control how you respond to anything. Not unless you let them. So here's the thing nobody tells you. You think people make you angry. You think situations make you stressed. You think events make you upset. But that's not true. And until you understand why, you're going to stay trapped. Let's go back. Ancient Rome. About 2,000 years ago. Slavery is everywhere. And Epictetus is at the bottom of society. He's property, an object, something to be used and thrown away. His master is abusive, cruel. One day, his master is twisting his leg, hurting him just because he can. And Epictetus says calmly, if you keep doing that, you're going to break it. The master keeps going. The leg breaks. And Epictetus just looks at him and says, I told you. No screaming, no begging, no breakdown, just a calm statement of fact. Now think about that for a second. This man is being tortured. His leg is being broken, and he stays calm. How is that even possible? Because Epictetus understood something that most people never learn. He understood that pain is one thing, suffering is another, and only one of them is your choice. Pain happens to you. Someone hurts you physically. Something bad happens. You lose something. That's pain. That's real. That's unavoidable. But suffering? Suffering is what you add to the pain. It's the story you tell yourself about the pain. It's the meaning you attach to it. It's the spiral you go down in your mind. And that part? That's your choice, always. See, when his master broke his leg, the physical pain was real. Epictetus couldn't control that. But the mental suffering, the anger, the hatred, the feeling of being destroyed, that was optional. And he chose not to add it. This is what changed everything for him, and what changes everything for anyone who really gets it. Most people think their emotions just happen to them. Someone insults you and you get angry. Someone disappoints you and you get sad. Something goes wrong and you get stressed. It feels automatic, like you have no choice. Like the emotion is just the natural result of what happened. But Epictetus said that's wrong. That's a lie you've been telling yourself your whole life. He said there's always a gap between what happens and how you respond. And in that gap, you have a choice. You might not realize it. The gap might be tiny. But it's there. Someone says something mean. That's the event. Before you react, there's a split second where your brain decides what this means. Is this an attack? Is this important? Is this worth my energy? And based on what you decide, you feel something. Anger, sadness, nothing. Whatever you choose. Most people make this decision unconsciously. They've trained themselves to react certain ways to certain things. So it feels automatic. But it's not. It's just habit. And habits can be changed. Epictetus spent his whole life teaching this. He got freed from slavery eventually and became a philosopher. And everything he taught came back to this one idea. You are not controlled by what happens to you. You are controlled by what you decide it means. He said, people are not disturbed by things, but by the views they take of them. Let that sink in. The thing itself doesn't disturb you. Your interpretation of the thing disturbs you. Traffic doesn't make you angry. Your belief that traffic shouldn't be there makes you angry. Your belief that you should get where you're going faster makes you angry. Your belief that this is unfair makes you angry. The traffic is just traffic. It's neutral. You're adding the meaning. Someone insults you. The words themselves don't hurt you. Your belief that their opinion matters hurts you. Your belief that you need their approval hurts you. Your belief that this says something about your worth hurts you. The words are just sounds. You're adding the meaning. Now here's where it gets practical. Because this isn't just philosophy. This changes how you live every single day. Let's say you're at work and your boss criticizes you unfairly. Most people would get angry, feel attacked, maybe argue back, or shut down, or go home fuming. But if you understand what Epictetus taught, you'd pause. You'd recognize that there's a gap between the criticism and your response. And in that gap, you'd ask yourself, what's actually happening here? Is my boss right? If yes, learn from it and move on. If no, why does it matter? Why am I giving this person's wrong opinion power over my emotional state? You might decide the criticism isn't worth engaging with. You might decide to calmly explain your perspective. You might decide to start looking for a better job. But whatever you decide, you're deciding. You're not just reacting. You're choosing your response based on what's actually useful, not just letting your emotions run wild. That's power, real power. Not the power to control what happens to you, but the power to control how you handle it. Here's another example. Someone you love disappoints you. Maybe they forgot something important. Maybe they let you down. Maybe they hurt your feelings. Most people would spiral. They'd get upset. They'd either blow up or shut down. They'd make it mean something big. Maybe they don't love me. Maybe I'm not important to them. Maybe this relationship is doomed. But Epictetus would ask, are those thoughts helping you? Are they true? Or are you just creating suffering on top of disappointment? The disappointment is real. You can acknowledge that, but the spiral, the story, the meaning you're adding, that's optional. You could instead just have a conversation. You could say, hey, this hurt me. Can we talk about it? You could recognize that people make mistakes and move on. You could decide this isn't actually a big deal. Whatever you choose, you're in control. Not of what they did, but of what you do next. This is what Epictetus lived. He couldn't control being a slave. He couldn't control his master's cruelty. He couldn't control getting his leg broken. But he could control whether he let those things destroy him mentally, whether he let them fill him with hatred and bitterness, whether he let them make him feel powerless. And he chose not to. He chose to stay free in his mind even when his body was in chains. That's why he said, no one can hurt you without your permission. Now that sounds crazy at first, because obviously people can hurt you. They can say mean things. They can betray you. They can cause you physical or financial harm. But here's what he meant. They can cause you pain. But you decide whether that pain becomes suffering. You decide whether it breaks you or makes you stronger. You decide what story you tell yourself about it. Someone insults you. That's pain. Brief, temporary. But if you replay it in your head for days, if you let it affect your self-worth, if you let it change how you see yourself, that's suffering. And that's your choice. Someone betrays you. That's pain. Real pain. But if you let it make you bitter, if you let it close your heart to everyone else, if you let it define your future relationships, that's suffering. And that's your choice. This doesn't mean pretend you're not hurt. This doesn't mean suppress your emotions. This doesn't mean become cold and unfeeling. It means feel what you feel, but don't let it control you. Acknowledge the pain, but don't add unnecessary suffering on top of it. Process the emotion, but don't let it run your life. Because here's what most people do. They feel something and they become that feeling. They get angry and they are anger. They get sad and they are sadness. They get anxious and they are anxiety. But Epictetus would say, you're not your emotions. You're the person experiencing emotions. There's a difference. When you realize that, when you create that separation, you get your power back. Because now you can observe the emotion without being controlled by it. You can say, I notice I'm feeling angry, instead of, I am angry. And from that place of observation, you can choose. Do I want to act on this anger? Is this anger useful? Or is this anger just hurting me? Most of the time, the answer is it's just hurting you. And once you see that, you can let it go. This is what Epictetus taught. And it's what freed him, even when he was physically enslaved. Because freedom isn't about your circumstances. Freedom is about your mind. You can be in prison and be free. You can have all the money in the world and be trapped. It all depends on whether you understand this one truth. No one controls how you respond except you. No one makes you feel anything except you. No one has power over your mind except you. And when you really get that, when you really live that, everything changes. Because now nothing can break you. Nothing can control you. Nothing can take away the one thing that actually matters, your ability to choose your response. Epictetus lived in chains, but his mind was free, and that made him more powerful than the people who thought they owned him. You're probably not in chains, but you might be letting other people control you anyway, through their opinions, through their actions, through their words. And Epictetus's message to you is simple. Stop. Take back your power. Remember that you decide what things mean. You decide how you respond. You decide whether something breaks you or makes you stronger. That's your freedom. No one can take it. They can only make you forget you have it. Subscribe for more ancient truths that still hit different.